Hey guys, it's Van Diaz, by Card 5 Vanguard deck profiles. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and sorry. This time we're covering DC Set 8 with Dragon Empire Vorpal Dragon. So a lot of great decks got released in DC Set 8, and one of them that actually got support almost immediately was Vorpal, who technically came out in DC Set 7, but he was officially released in DC Set 8 as a promo for Deer Days 2. Well, actually, he got a confirmed release with a bunch of support for him. Let's go and get this deck started, shall we see what we got, because honestly, now that he has actual support, and it's not just me shoving a bunch of random stealth units into a deck just to make use of Shenryi, let's go ahead and see what we got, because the deck works really well in synergy. First today, we have our Energy Generator. It's our Ride Deck Crest. You might ride deck Crest in your Ride deck. Auto Ride deck, when you would ride, put this card into your Crest zone, and if you win second, you get to Energy Charge 3. Continuous, you may have a 10 energy, and auto begin your Ride phase, Energy Charge 3, and act once per turn, Energy about 7, draw a card. All around pretty solid because you get a free 3 energy every turn. On top of that, you can get an extra 3 if you win second. And even though you would never do this in this deck because this deck wants to use Vorpal Dragon's ability as much as possible, but if you for some reason ran into a situation where you had an extra 7 energy laying around and you didn't want to use the Vanguard skill, you can energy bot 7 to help increase your hand by 1 card. All around, not a bad card to have, and obviously because Vorpal requires energy, it's very integral to the deck, so we have to run it. Moving on to our starter, we have Lizard Soldier Jisen. Grade 0 boost, 5k show, 6k base, auto 100% draw card, standard starter, and that's about free draw if you go second. You can make this any starter you want. None of the ride line requires Jisen, though I choose to make it Jisen because according to Bushy, it is Vorpal's confirmed starter. And it's really fun that Jisen is kind of like remnant of Conroe, who was Overlord's canonical quote-unquote starter, we'll call it. And well, Vorpal is the descendant of Vortex Dragon, who was a card that was used by Kai. So I think it's just really cool that Jisen is like kind of remnant of Conroe. Moving on, we have our Overtrigger in Dragon Deity King of Resurgence Dragveda. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, Overtrigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, remove that card, draw a card, choose one units, get +1 mana for the turn, and if you revealed it during jet check, activate it's a disc effect when you get to choose your Vanguard to stand it. Arm pretty solid because someone gets a mill and a draw, but if you drove check this, you get to stand your Vanguard before it actually loses drives, which means then you could attack with it again and then have its restand ability activate at the end of that battle and then get an extra Vanguard attack out of it. Our on Dragritter is really nice to add a little bit extra pressure for the Vanguard. You can run Volnut to have a little bit more consistent multi-attack with your rear guards, or you can run Spoiler for recycling, or even the Dark Overtrigger for healing and calling, but I prefer Dragritter because it's just fun using the Vanguard Sand effect. That takes us over to our normal triggers. We run 3 copies of Flare Veil Dragon. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, contains Guard Circle. Every opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 grade at 5,000 to the shield. So you know it's a 10k shield and a draw trigger, so it helps increase the hand, which allows you to draw into your more important pieces a little bit easier. And it's a 10k shield once your opponent hits grade 3, so it makes it a little bit easier when it comes to guarding. So I like having 3 copies of it. Then we have a total of 8 crit, 4 copies of Rogue Beast Sunagosari. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any crit you want. I just chose to make it Sunagosari because I think I stole this deck from Varga, so then I just stole the trigger lineup from it too. And then we have 4 copies of Burning Flail Dragon. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, and boosted, shove it to soul, choose unit, and give it 2k for the turn. It is solid. This deck will never run into a soul problem unless you run into the 2 cards that soul blast, and then you never once draw into any of the 2 soul chargers. So, I mean, you don't really need to use Burning Flail. You can make this a vanilla crit, but choose to make it Burning Flail just in case I do run into that situation. But it's nice to have a total of 8 crit for that additional pressure since, again, this is a Vanguard multi-attack deck. And then we have 4 heals in Stealth Dragon Shikaten. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. This can be any heal you want. I chose to make it Stealth Dragon Shikaten because, like I said before, the original version of this deck back in set 7 focused on using a bunch of stealth named units, and while this deck is different from that, I did just copy this deck straight from there and change around the cards, so I just chose to keep the heal trigger. But again, you can make this any heal you want. I choose to make it Shikaten because that was the reason. Moving on to our grade 1s, we own 4 copies of Stealth Fiend Shenryi, the whole reason why the original Vorpal deck existed in the first place. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear guard when this unit boosts anything. If your opponent has 1 or less rear guards, or you put in order this turn, she'll get 5,000 power for the battle. At the end of the battle, shove her to soul, draw a card. Arm pretty solid because this deck does have an order in it. Unfortunately, it's not searchable, but if you end up playing the order or you just murked off your opponent's rear guards because of what the deck does anyways, she'll be a 13k booster who can then increase your soul and get you some extra hand cards to replace her, but also have a little bit of guarding power prepared for your opponent's turn and possibly even some important units like a Persona Ride or follow-up for the next turn. So all around, I like having Shenryi in the deck. She's pretty much always going to go off in this deck because, again, you're either always going to be able to draw the order or you're just going to murk off enough rear guards to proc this off anyways. And she has an amazing, like, beautiful scarlet red moon in the background, which, as we all know, I love the moon. So 4 copies of Shenryi. She's just really great. And then the reason why Shenryi was the reason the old deck existed is because I used Shenryi for the first time in Varga, and then I was like, you know what, Shenryi's really cool. I want to try to play Shenryi again. So then I literally looked up all the cards that could use the word stealth in their card name and how they apply with it, and basically built Shoujo Doji with Vorpal as the grade 3. So yeah, 4 copies of Shenryi. She's the reason this deck existed in the first place. Moving on, we have Dragritter Nilmeen. So a grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base. Auto, when placed on rearguard circle, by counterblasting 1, you can check the top 7 and choose up to 1 card that's a grade 3 regarded from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, and shuffle the deck, and if you did not reveal a card, countercharge 1. Okay, upsides to this, there's only 1 grade 3 in the deck, and that is Vorpal himself. So either you're going to fetch a Persona Ride, or you're just going to get a free deck shuffle, which is pretty solid. Second up, continues rearguard circle. If your opponent's rearguard is retired or bound during this turn, she'll get 5,000 power. So she's a nice generic Dragon Empire card, so she can end up increasing her power when your opponent's rearguard is retired. And again, like I said, she can fetch your Persona Ride, which is very important for Vorpal Dragon's restand skill. The only downside is her 5k skill is a continuous ability, not a auto or continuous every time something was retired, you get 5k. That means even if like 5 units are retired, she'll only get a total of 5k for the turn, so she'll only be at 13k. But again, she'll be at 13k as long as something dies and is by any means, so it can be retired by effects or just simply attacked into. And again, her top 7 search, it procs regardless of what grade either player is at, and either gets you a Persona or gets you a deck shuffle at the very least, while also countercharging you. So honestly, not a bad grade 1 at all. I do like having her in this deck. 4 copies. Moving on, we have 4 copies of Constricting Bullet of Duststorm Ibrines. So a grade 1 boost, 5k short, AK base. This card is amazing beyond compare and is a perfect support card for Vorpal. So continuous, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater with Vorpal in the card name, this unit gets all the following. First up, auto when placed on rearguard circle from the hand specifically, energy charge 3. So just get a free 3 energy just by simply being placed. And you cannot activate the act ability of your energy generator to end a turn. Okay, so downside is you can't use energy generator. But for the record, it's only for that moment. So say, for example, you hit 9 energy before you played Ibrines, you can send Energy Blast 7 to draw a card and then play Ibrines. So for the rest of the turn, you can't use the act ability, but you already used the act ability, so you're fine. And that ability is not once per turn, so if you play multiple Ibrines, you're just going to keep energy charging 3. So that's just a free Vorpal right there. And then auto rearguard, when it boosts anything, it gets 5,000 power for the battle. So 13k booster. But if it boosts the Vanguard, that's a grade 3 or greater with Vorpal in the card name, at the end of the battle, actually, it's any unit that has Vorpal in the card name. It doesn't have to be specifically the Vanguard, so there's a reason to run the Krell Elemental standing over trigger. At the end of the battle that it boosted, Soulbots won't stand him. So again, it works for that Krell Elemental one that allows the unit to attack multiple times. It works for Vorpal, who can multi-attack. That ability also isn't once per turn, so if you flip the over on the Vanguard before you do the restand skill, you can then use Ibrines for both battles, which is even better. Honestly, this grade 1 is perfect. It's a free 3 energy just by simply being placed, and not to mention the fact that it's a 13k booster regardless of who it's boosting, but if it boosts the Vanguard, it has the potential to stand with it just by simply soul busting 1. It's an amazing grade 1. It's just a 4 of. That takes us over to 4 copies of Guardian Monk of Raging Flames Monju. This is our PG. Grade 1 boost, 0 show, 6k base, continuous health after 4 Sentinels, and deck, and also put on guard circle. Choose when reads, it cannot be hit on the battle. If your hand's 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing to special that. Basically, that means if this one and one of the cards in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard. It's great, because that means you can be as aggressive as in the early game. You don't want to spam this till you get to Vorpal, but you can feel free to spam everything hell out of these 2, and then your opponent does eventually counterattack you for being a little bit too aggressive. Throw down Monju, give them the middle finger, and because they were probably really aggressive, they committed a board nuke them next turn, the combination of Vorpal and this guy. All around, Monju is a very solid PG to have. It allows you to be really aggressive while still having that guaranteed safety defense on backup. You can make this Twin Buckler Dragon or Sparkle Rejector Dragon. They have the exact same skill as Monju. I choose to make it Monju because it came out close to the time of Vorpal Dragon's release. That takes us over to the last grade 1 of the deck, and that is our grade 1 of the ride deck, and that is Demonic Dragon Mage Joku. So it's one of them in the ride deck, none of the main deck because it has no rear guard skill, but that's fine. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, all enrolled upon by Dragritter Azar, Energy Blast 3 to draw a card, and choose one of your Vanguards give 5,000 power for the turn. That is a really good ability, because you get a free 3 energy every turn, so automatically your energy for that turn is going to go to this, but it replaces the card you ditched for ride deck by giving you that draw, and also makes the Vanguard a 15k base for the turn. If you're asking why that matters, well, it comes down to magic numbers. Say, for example, you don't want to call booster that turn. So your Vanguard, let's just say we didn't use the skill. Your Vanguard's a 10k base because you didn't call booster. Well, when your opponent's at grade 1 or grade 2, now when you swing with your Vanguard, if they throw down a 15k, it's automatically a no pass or an over to pass because you chose to call down a booster, because they're either at 23 or they're at 25. But if you did use the skill, now your Vanguard's at 15, where even if you didn't call a booster, if they throw down a 15, whether they're at grade 2 or grade 1, there's no matter what, it's a 1 to pass now because, well, you're 15k base without a booster. And if you do call a booster, well, it's a 23k swing, and unless they're at grade 2, they're going to have to drop a 20k for a 1 to pass. All around, Joku is a very solid grade 1. Like I said, it replaces your ride deck fodder with an extra card and allows your Vanguard basically to be a guaranteed 1 to pass on your opponent's attack, meaning they pretty much are going to be forced to take the Vanguard attack. So it's a nice one of the ride deck, and I like having it here. Moving on, we have our grade 2s, starting off with 3 copies of our normal order, a serious fight. You see, I thought I wouldn't see a serious fight as often anymore because A, I don't have 4 copies of it anymore, and B, I don't have its searcher, but apparently I still see all the copies incredibly often, even if I don't have the ability to search them out, so check that as you will. Anyways, grade 2 normal order, play it by soul blasting 1 to choose an opponent's from a rear guard, mark it, and at the end of your turn, ditch a card and bounces back from your drops into hand. Okay, not bad. Most of the time I forget that you can just like ditch a card to swap it back, but most of the time you don't need to anyways, because you're really only using a serious fight to get an extra rear guard kill off, most likely on your grade 2 turn to get rid of something pesky before it becomes a problem on grade 3 or before your opponent moves it back to the back row, or you're only just playing it to make sure you can get a full board wipe and still get Vorpal Dragon's power effect off. But A, if you want to be able to recycle it for the next turn, you can just ditch a card and add it back to your hand. But like I said, typically it's just a rear guard mark, and because it eats into soul, and the only other guy who eats into soul in this deck is actually Ibrines over here, you're pretty much always guaranteed to get soul blast. Okay, I say that, and literally the next card we're going to cover is going to cover soul blast, but you get my point. It's a good order to have, and I like having it as a 3 of. Moving on, we have 4 copies of Dragritter Lateefa. Our plan to get a board presence, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto inputs on rear guard circle other than by a unit card's ability. If you play in a normal order this turn, soul blast 1 and check the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with grade less than equal to your Vanguard from among them, call it to rear guard circle if it's a unit, or add it to your hand if it's a normal order, and shuffle. All around pretty solid, because once you play a serious fight to mark a rear guard, you can then pay another soul blast to call another card from the top 5 cards of your deck. You can call Lateefa. The issue is that Lateefa's ability then won't go off because she was called by a unit card's ability, but A, it still allows you to get a second Lateefa on board, or again, it can allow you to add another order to hand. Her other ability is auto rear guard. When she attacks into a grade 3 or greater unit, whether it's a Vanguard or a rear guard, she'll get 5,000 power to end of battle for each of your opponent's open rear guard circles and combats her. All around pretty solid, because like I said, she allows for a little bit of extra board presence, but also gets stronger for every single card that's in her column that's open, which unfortunately at most means she'll only get plus 10k, but A, still 20k, possibly 30k, 38k with a booster swing without needing any other triggers or persona benefits. So 4 copies of Lateefa. Then we have 4 copies of Dragritter Falhart, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto input on guard circle from the hand or discard it from your hand while riding from the ride deck, card plus 1 energy boss 3 in order to draw a card. All around solid. You know, it does eat into the CB a little bit, which isn't as preferred, even though we haven't seen a lot of CB users so far. We have some important ones in the form of obviously our main grade 3 and our next grade 2, but if you end up wanting to use your energy, which again, this deck has a constant way to cycle at least 3 energy every turn, along with the energy generators free 3 energy, you can feel free to use some of the energy here to help draw a card whenever discarded for hand or when used from guarding. And then auto inputs on rear guard circle, EV persona of this turn, same cost as before, either counter blast or energy blast 3, and choose a grade 1 card that's something from the drops and call to back or rear guard circle. So that ability you will never use unless you absolutely have to, because you're probably spamming Lateefa and you're probably not playing against a board nuke deck. But if you have to call a rear guard back, this is your call to call either Shenryi or Ibrines, though to be fair, any of these 3 grade 1s would be good in that situation. But again, being able to cycle back a rear guard is great. Again, this deck has multiple ways to get 3 free energy, so if you have to eat into the energy, it's not the end of the world, and if you have to use a CB, it's not the end of the world either. But you really only use this card in the deck as the ride deck / guard power fodder, where in case you're in a situation where you need an extra hand card to possibly survive the turn with guard power, you can use the skill then, or just simply replace it in the early game while you're ditching for ride deck to try to increase your hand and keep up consistent rush. So 4 copies of Falhart is great. His resources is kind of iffy because he does beat into the resources that this deck does like to use, but the deck can minimize enough to where it's not that much of a problem. That takes us over to 4 copies of Dragritter Bishara, grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Every time I look at this card, I have like deja vu because I refuse to believe that it's actually green, and it is. It's like the Mondel effect is kicking in, even though I know it's actually green. Anyways, auto placed on rear guard circle, choose a grade 3 card Vorpal on this card name from the ride deck, and you may reveal it. If you reveal the card or your Vanguard is already a grade 3 or greater with Vorpal on the card name, card boss 1, choose an opponent's rear guard, mark it, and if you do not kill something, you draw a card. Cool, so you get a rear guard kill or you get an increased hand card, so it's a nice way to, like I said, kill rear guards or get hand cards, and continues rear guard circle. This unit gets 5,000 power for every 3 energy blast paid for the cost of the act ability of your grade 3 get a Vanguard Vorpal on the card name. AKA, if you spam the Vanguard's ability 3 times, it's going to get plus 15k. All around pretty solid, and I really like that it's not every time a rear guard was killed that turn, because the whole point of Vorpal is to try to use the energy while your opponent has no board. So literally every single time the Vanguard increases its power via its own skill, this unit will also get a power increase as well, making it a very big beat stick on board to help pressure your opponent down with the Vanguard restand. All around, I like Bishara a lot. When it comes down, it only eats up 1 CB for either rearguard kill or a handcard plus, and every single time the Vanguard uses skill is going to get even bigger with it. So imagine having 2 of these on the side and your Vanguard procs off 3 times in a row, which brings these things to a total of 15k each. So Bishara, really great grade 2. I love having it in the deck, so it's a good 4 of. That takes it over to our last grade 2 in the deck, one of them in the right deck, not in the main deck, of a card that just looks like a gladiator, but it reminds me of Nahalem, aka Overlord's like canonical main grade 2, even though it was a 10k vanilla back in the day. You know, like everyone knows Nahalem from Overlord, etc. Anyways, Dragritter Azar, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base auto. When rode upon by a grade 3 card with Vorpal in the card name, choose one of your vanguards, and the cost of all that unit's original auto abilities are reduced by counterbox 1 to end of turn. Honestly, pretty solid. It basically means the Vanguard's restand skill for that turn is free, so even if you're not going to get the extra drive from it, hey, you know what, at least you're going to be able to board wipe your opponent, get a lot of good numbers out of it, and get a Vanguard restand, all for only costing energy. So not a bad grade 2 at all. It doesn't have to be flashy, because simply reducing the CB is enough. So 1 of Azar on the right deck, none in the main deck. And that, of course, takes us to our last card on the deck. Of course, it's our main grade 3, the dragon surrounded by blossoming petals that brings forth a burning inferno, Hellfire Dragon, Vorpal Dragon. Grade 3, 200% right, 13k base, legendary dragon descendant from Vortex Dragon. Auto Vanguard at the beginning of your main phase, energy charge 3. So you get a free 3 energy every ride phase thanks to your energy generator. Then you get an extra free 3 every single main phase thanks to Vorpal after you ride it, which is great. And then act Vanguard, what energy boss 3. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, murder it, and if you do not kill something, it gets 5,000 power for that turn. But if your opponent's Vanguard's at grade 3 or greater, it gets 10,000 instead of 5,000. Armor pretty solid because it's simple energy boss 3, which again you get from its skill and from your energy generator skill. You get to murk something, but if something doesn't die, you get an increase in power. And then auto Vanguard, once per turn at the end of this unit attached into anything. If you energy blasted 6 or more in total this turn for the cost of this unit's ability, counter blast 1 and stand it, or of course, you know, the turn that you rode Azar for free, stand it, it'll lose 2 drives for the turn. But if you still blast out a copy of this unit, you get an extra drive until end of turn. So unlike Spectral Duke from V, who would make the cost, which I still find was a really cool way to do it, instead of losing 2 drives, it was gain a drive, so it would go from twin drive to triple drive instead of just going to 0 drive plus 1. But in this case, it is like that, where it goes to 0 drive, then it gets the additional 1. But hey, you know what? It's a Vanguard restand that procs regardless of how great the opponent's Vanguard's at, as long as you use its skill twice, which you will always be able to use because, again, its skill allows you to get the free 3 energy along with the energy generator, so you'll always be able to energy blast 6, possibly get numbers, or get rear guard kills, worst case scenario. And again, get the Vanguard to stand for free, at least on the Azar turn, and then on the turn after that, it's only 1 CB, and you might even get a Persona Ride number off it to have an extra triple drive. So honestly, Vorpal, very good grade 3 to have. Kills rear guards, gets numbers, gets your resources out the wazoo, plus your grade 1 who already gets you more resources out the wazoo. Not to mention the fact gets your Vanguard a really cheap restand that could possibly lead to extra drive checks. Not a bad grade 3 at all, so easy 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. And without further ado, that's it for this deck. I hope all of you enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is very fun. As I've kind of like said before, Vorpal got a lot of good support this set. This thing is beyond busted. This thing, that's Lateefa, this thing allows you to get numbers or indoor rear guard kills and hand cards all at once. This thing just makes Vorpal free for a turn. Lateefa is always being Lateefa, and then Shenryi is just all around solid. Not to mention the fact that this thing can help you swing the tempo in the early game because, again, it allows your Vanguard to basically be a 15k is now 1 to pass instead of an over to pass. All around, the deck is very fun to play, and I definitely recommend you pick it up if you are interested in trying out Vorpal Dragon, or just want to try out a Dragon Empire deck in general, because rearguard kills, restands, and numbers galore is pretty much everything Dragon Empire different decks does in one. So without further ado, I'm going to end here. I hope all of you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us for Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to send up your Vanguards.